Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another USI Tech Talk. Today, we are lucky to have Lynn Herman from the Peat Sorb Corporation here. She's going to be teaching us about, their Peat Sorb absorbent. She's been in the industry. I'm not sure how long, but she knows more about the absorbents market than anyone that I know. Lynn, if you could, kick us off from there, it'd be great.
Yeah, fantastic. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Peat Sorb seminar. I have a very short window of time in which to speak with you, so I want to hit on some key bullet points to do with the absorbent world and sectors that we're in: oil and gas, government, heavy industry. What you need to know is this absorbent is not like the absorbents that you probably are familiar with, such as oil dry and oil gator and things to that effect. There is no chemical reactivity with peat sorb with any chemical. It absorbs all hydrocarbons. We have lab tests that support a variety of non-detect with mercury and arsenic, petroleum categories with alcohols, ethers, acids. It's landfill friendly. It doesn't leach. We have also introduced a new blend, and it is so that we can absorb all contaminated water and solidify it with the hydrocarbon. The original blend is to separate hydrocarbons and give clean water. So we have two tracks in which to produce results that are economical, environmental, and save the ecologies. The Peat Sorb product is shipped globally around the world. One area I'd like to focus on briefly is Nigeria. They probably have the worst soil in terms of toxicity and the variety of chemicals. We were lab tested by an accredited lab. All the chemicals were identified, and the total petroleum count was just over 31,000. Day one of introducing peat sorb, it dropped to 23,000. And on day 14, it dropped to 1,700. Huge difference. And I said, hey, what happens after day 14? We would have probably got to non-detect. And they said, well, we only paid for 14 days. But therein it is for you to understand what we can do with soil. With water, our historical credit is we helped Petrobras in Brazil clean up 2 million liters of crude oil in the ocean. And these are the sorts of things that we're able to do that any other absorbent I know simply can't be everything to everyone, but so far we are. BP, they have the 5th largest refinery in the United States, called me on a Sunday and said, Lynn, we have a big spill. And it was over an acre, 6 inches deep. Hydrogen sulfide, benzene were the two main culprits. And we are already spill response ready with inventory. Shipped our product there. It was doing the job. But then she called me back and she said, Lynn, all the snow and the ice are melting. So that was our new blend, our water hydrocarbon absorbent. And she said, Lynn, we do not know what we would have done without your product. She will freely speak with anyone in the oil and gas sector to explain further why we are best practice and how we save the day. And that's one sector to do with oil and gas. The other sector is we now have executive order in the United States. It means it's mandatory purchasing by federal agencies rather, and federal contractors. So where the application fits, Peat Sorb has become a mandatory choice, and that is under both President Biden and carried forward under President Trump. So that's pretty significant to get that recognition. It's under the bio-based, bio-preferred program. And of all the absorbents tested, we were the only one, according to the USDA, that had a net zero carbon footprint. So we have that backing us. And mines, if any of you folks are involved in heavy metals, I have a distributor in Peru, and he is under contract with the mines there to supply them with peat sorb in all their mining scenarios. I'm wondering if you have any questions, but I will say this. Because of the war, there is a lot of speak about a shortage of fertilizer in the world. And what peat sorb is able to do is be repurposed and become a fertilizer. So when you have absorbed heavy metals, oil, gas, whatever the liquid is, the peat is able to break down and neutralize the toxicity. In doing so, you will get non-detect results, and the peat breaks down the toxicity. The peat also contains essential minerals like calcium, iron, manganese, phosphorus, things of this effect. And now we can deliver to the soil a nutrient enriched additive and enhance the soil so that the crops will also be equally enhanced. So keep in mind when you're using peat sorb, just don't take it to landfill. Try to repurpose it because it has an added value. And I'll hand it back to Chris.
Yep. I'm going to go through and I'm going to open up mics right now for everyone. And it looks like we already have a couple chat questions. I'll grab those in a second as well. Now for jumping into these chat questions, how do people typically dispose of peat sorb after, after they've used it to absorb hydrocarbons?
First of all, we like them to reuse the peat. It may still have additional performing attributes, wicking capacity. So it's not always a one-time use. But after it has become saturated with the hydrocarbon, it can be incinerated safely. We have lab tests for that. And landfill is perfectly safe because it's not going to leach. However, even though I'm saying go ahead and throw it in the local garbage, perhaps the jurisdictions say, sorry, even though it is that way, safe for landfill, you may have to follow hazardous waste fill, but it is perfectly safe for landfill.
Got it. And then you mentioned that it can be incinerated. One of the follow-up questions here is when it's being incinerated, what kind of energy recovery can you get out of those hydrocarbons?
Good question. So we, again, referring to our lab tests, 1 pound of encapsulated oil in peat sorb will generate 15,500 BTUs. So yes, it can be reused for a fuel alternative.
Great. Another question we have here is for someone who is currently using clay-based absorbents or traditional oil dry, what are the biggest differences they would notice when switching to peat sorb?
Efficiency, economy, and the speed in which the hydrocarbon is eliminated. So with oil dry, you're going to go around and around and around and still see the hydrocarbon because all it's doing is sticking to the outside of the granule. Whereas when you apply the peat sorb, you can go around and around and you're not going to see anything but the surface below because it's been encapsulated into the peat. So that's on contact, whisked away, clean and over. Less labor time and less product used.
I had a customer who once used peat sorb comment that when oil gets on concrete, right, which is where they were absorbing it, typically, even after you use something like oil dry, you're going to have a stain there, and you're going to have that stain pretty much forever. He's like, yeah, there wasn't even anything on the concrete. It's like it didn't get absorbed in there at all. Is that like typical?
I'm not sure I'm following. Is there a spill and someone has used Peat Sorb?
Yeah, so there was a spill, and
Right?
there had been a spill there before, so there was a stain, and he noticed after he pulled up the Peat Sorb, it actually pulled the stain out of the concrete itself, which was oil contamination.
Correct. Yes, that's what you should witness because it has wicking energy to it, right? It wants to draw into its cellular structure. It's relative. And peat is a building block to fossil fuels. So that's why it wants to reconnect, as it were, with a relative and it brings it into its cellular structure.
We got another question here. It says, can Peat Sorb absorb and break down polymer at wastewater treatment plants?
Ah, good. Yes. So peat sorb will absorb polymer. It's been used before in like pulp and paper mills. The polymer is quite the hazard, right? It's like a banana peel and very hazardous. So, yep, peat sorb will absorb the polymer and it will break it down.
Thank you very much. The next one we have up here it was asking that same question. Can you get the oil out of concrete? Which I think we already said it wants to pull it out, so it's going to pull it out. Is there a follow-up question to that? Is there like a timeline? Like let's say that the stain's 5 years old. Would it still potentially remove it?
Yeah, so that's where I was going to go. Yeah, exactly. What will happen is you have to reliquefy it and reactivate it because it's stuck in the concrete. We use ZEP brake cleaning fluid, um, and it seems to have a effect on bringing it back to life, as it were. And then you put the peat on, agitate it with a stiff broom, and you're grabbing it out of the pores again.
Awesome. That's really really cool to me that a stain that's been there for years and years could potentially be pulled out. I might have to do that in my garage. We got another question here that says, how much peat sorb is needed for a gallon of oil spill? Like, what's the one-to-one comparison there? Like a gallon of oil spill equals how much peat sorb?
Um, we generally say 1 to 1. However, the viscosity plays a role. So when we say it's 1 to 1, it's based on viscosity of the oil being equivalent to SAE 30 motor oil. So if it's thicker, then accordingly you go up. It might be 2-1, 2 to 1, right? But 1 to 1 to start, based on the viscosity of SAE 30 motor oil.
And a follow-up to that, how heavy is it prior to being used, and how heavy is it after cleaning the spill?
Oh my gosh, we have the lightest absorbent going. You can imagine it's like tobacco. It's super, super light. It's fine particulates. And after you've absorbed the hydrocarbon, um, it's also still light compared to oil dry, which is heavy clay and getting heavier. So we're only marginally heavier based on the weight of the hydrocarbon.
Thank you. The next one we have is, as a contractor who has experience cleaning up spills, are you aware of any pipeline companies that will not allow the use of peat sorb?
No, in fact, Kinder Morgan wants to buy Peat Sorb in Texas. So no, BP, right? Um, so no, there's no one that doesn't want to buy it because it solves the problem fast, efficiently, economically, and environmentally.
Right. I think that's the last question we have. Does anyone else have any other questions to throw in here? I'll give you a couple seconds to drop those in. While we're waiting for any other potential questions, thank you everyone for joining us here today on our Tech Talk about Peat Sorb. It's been great having you. Fantastic questions today. If you are interested in purchasing Peat Sorb, you can reach out to the salesperson who likely invited you to this. You can reach out to Unconventional Solutions on LinkedIn. You can also give us a call at 248-735-7000, and we can help you with any other questions you might have. And I'm not seeing any other questions populate. So thank you again, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Lynn, for
Thank you.
presenting and giving us all this great information. And we look forward to seeing everybody on the next one.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome. Yay, Peat Sorb.